Hey, this is Samar Newsome, and this is the Musician Shed podcast. I have the best guest today. This is my mentor, my dad, the start of music for me. Outside of my mom is my mom, and she was my start. But in high school, I met this guy, and he just facilitated. Like, it's like God just put him in my life for that reason. So I like to introduce and present Dr. William Farley. How you doing? William Y. Farley.
Junior. Right. That's right.
What's going on, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me here.
Oh, of course, man. Of course.
Seeing all the wonderful people you've had on here. I'm like, what are you inviting me for?
Oh, get out of here, man. Get out of here. So listen, man, the show is basically about one, trying to leave some information and wisdom for the future, but also just really recapping some stories of how we got to where we got to. One thing, we can't negate the past and the history that it took us to get to where we are. And you're pivotal in my history. So obviously it would be great to have you on here to share, but also to know more about what your history was. And I know you have a lot of things that you could share. I know you had a whole career, multiple careers, as a matter of fact. And so just tell us, one, how did you get started in music? Because I know you come from a musical family. So what was that like? I liken you guys to like the New Jersey Jacksons. So tell us about your start in music, how you got the spark of music, and what was that like growing up in that household?
No, that's a really good question. So, I, as like any other person you talk to who's musically inclined or as a singer or a musician, grew up in the church. Not my father, my grandfather was pastor of the church, had most of the family there. Family were mostly musicians and singers, and so it was you don't really recognize that at the time,
right?
Because I didn't really get that interested in the field until I was a late bloomer, like junior in high school. Loving music, listen to the radio, loving music, but didn't really know the capacity or the potential that I had, and so I was in choir, and I had this music teacher. Speaking of influential music teachers, she influenced me to play piano because this was Brahms' piece, and I'm a classical person. I think it was the Brahms Requiem that we learned in choir, nice. And that's when it hit me. Okay, like whoa. That's really, listen to the progressions and everything. And so from that, I said, I want to learn how to play piano.
Yeah.
And that was in my junior year. And then I started taking lessons from there. And then I decided, this is something that, I might want to pursue. And that's how I got into music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So again, church background, and which is always something that, again, when I grew up, like you said, I wasn't paying attention to like, oh, I love this.
Right.
Just was doing it. You didn't notice that you were just doing it, and other people might not have been doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
So,
right.
And that, I just feel like this is just so natural. You know what I mean? So, was your grandfather a musician? I know your dad was a musician.
Yeah, my grandfather was a musician. He was a singer, and he also played guitar. As a matter of fact, he taught my dad or influenced my dad to play guitar, if I'm not mistaken. But I think my dad took it from there, because I think he liked the instrument. And he also started, in his early 20s, I guess, to play guitar. But he turned out to be a really masterful guitar player.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was that growing up? Because obviously he was past 20 by the time you were growing up in the house. What was that like? What was it like? He had a career, I'm sure, as a guitarist. What was that, and how did that influence you?
Well, he did have a career. He played with a renowned gospel quartet, the Missionary Jubilaires.
Okay,
and that was his life. And I have to be honest, I wasn't a gospel quartet fan. Okay, so it didn't really, wasn't really that, impressive. He'd be around the house playing the guitar, or, on the toilet everywhere, and so, but we would go, because the quartet would have anniversaries. We go, and they'd be at our church every year. Our church anniversary, they'd be our special guest.
Okay.
And so, but it's funny because he never talked to me, and I have a younger brother who also plays. He never talked to us about, wanting to learn an instrument. I think there was a time when I was catching on piano, and he wanted to teach me guitar. And I'm like, nah, this ain't
This
working.
ain't what I feel.
No. So we put that down. But he was still excited that I could play piano, and to the point where he actually started coming to church to play guitar because I was on piano.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's how it was for years. But again, I wasn't a quartet fan, I was a choir. So a lot of how he played guitar was quartet style,
right?
And
right.
so I kind of learned that same thing on piano, learned how to play for quartet. But then as I was catching on, I learned how to branch out and play other types of music.
No, that's great. Now, who were some of your musical influences growing up? Because obviously at that time, you probably grew up in a time with some of the biggest musical influences. So I'm curious, who were the people you were listening to and were influencing?
That's a good question because one of the first songs I played on the piano was "Follow Me," and that was Walter Hawkins.
Okay.
The Love Alive one album.
Yeah.
And that's when I fell in love with gospel music because I'm sure, like James Cleveland was a star, but Walter Hawkins came along, and I was like, he
changed the game.
Yes, that's what I like right there. So I bought the book, but I did learn how to play it by ear first.
Right.
But I wanted to see how am I playing this right? So I bought the book, and when I learned how to play "Follow Me," my choir felt I could play anything,
right?
And I couldn't.
They were like, "You played that? Okay,
right. Oh, you could play this and this." And so, but that is how I got very familiar with the piano,
right?
Because I had a really good ear, especially back then because it was like 1, 4, 5, 6, maybe I had a 7 on there. What they're doing now, like I got to figure that all out. But it wasn't that difficult back then with the Shirley Caesars and all that. But they thought I could play just about anything, and I was faking the funk, but I did learn how to, using my ear, learn how to play a lot of the music. So they actually were really big in helping me to become, using my ear.
It's funny you say that because when my first church job, and you introduced me to this to Reverend Ellaby at the AME church in Irvington, and back then I probably knew like 2 or 3 songs, because I first came on as a drummer,
right.
We had sang at her church, and then she's like, "Hey, you got somewhere you need, you got somewhere you could be. Can you come back?" Basically, and there was some girls there, so that probably influenced me coming back. I was like, "Yeah, I could come back. I could come back for this, and you gonna pay me to come back too." So that was kind of my introduction. But then, like quickly, she became the pastor of another church. But right before that, I had to do a service for her. I remember my first service playing for her.
Yeah.
In Roots Restaurant upstairs.
Yes, right.
And I was like, I don't really know how to play, but the main musician couldn't make it. And she was like, "Well, I'll pay you more if you play." And I'm like, "Okay." Okay, whatever I know. I'm just gonna, and I literally probably knew like 2 or 3 songs, but like you said, you learn how the progressions are kind of similar song to song.
Right.
It's not that far off. They probably was playing stuff wrong too, but it was still better than not having anything for them at the time.
Right. Yeah.
So, I remember that, and it's just so interesting to reminisce on that. Like, and I also was grateful that somebody was taking a chance, and just grateful that I was there to say, "Hey, we're gonna pay you anyway because you're here." You know what I'm saying? Like we want you here, and so I always think about that. Again, it was great, but it's funny you have that same story.
And I really like what Reverend Ellaby, like, and I know we'll get to Irvington, but that whole setup, is just like being at the right time at the right place. Exactly. And Reverend Ellaby was just, I absolutely love Reverend Ellaby.
Yeah.
But she was very good at, bringing out talent, or working with, younger folk.
Yeah.
And I loved her for that, because where I was, doing my part, she kind of took it from there.
Yeah.
And was
and opened up a door.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her church.
I mean, look, at one point, myself, Hassan, Dale, we were all at her church.
Right.
Then Khalif,
yeah, that's right.
And then O'Neal. So
O'Neal
she basically had like a nice pipeline from you of musicians.
That's funny. Yeah,
but again, she was open to that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so definitely shout out to her for being one of those people. I've had several people like that in my career. So I'm grateful that people were not so so demanding, or so like rigid in what they needed at the time. They were just grateful to have somebody that was available and learning, but they were okay with that. So you found those places. One thing I want to mention is something like I've been telling all of my friends now. I have a lot of friends from South Jersey now, and over the past half decade or so. Because when I did the documentary, I met a lot of people from South Jersey talking about their journey and the legends of South Jersey, but also just in passing now. And some of the, like, I always reflect on how nice of a person you were when I met you. Like, you were always like one of the most humble people I've met. Period.
Thank you.
And in seeing that, everybody that came through your circle mimicked that. Everybody. Like, we all were like, Farley's just chilling. I didn't really see you yell as a teacher, and I was with you all 4 years.
Yeah.
But I think there was one time I saw you kind of get,
I know where you're going.
But we ain't gonna talk about it, but I'm just saying, like, I'm saying that to say, like, to know you as long as I've known you, I've never seen you break character. You know what I'm saying? And so what was in the water in South Jersey that made you guys just really like, because it's a different culture up north, you know what I mean? And even I talk about music culture in the documentary, is how where we grew up, it was a little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more like cliquish, you know what I'm saying? And so, and I know you got to see that firsthand when you came up.
I did.
When you were in Irvington. So what was different in that culture that kind of facilitated more growth and more camaraderie in the South Jersey?
Well, I don't know if it has to do. I knew a lot of musicians where I grew up, and we were, once we met each other and we got our little circle going, we were, all pretty much, fine with each other. We didn't compete. We didn't, we worked together,
right.
much. It was when I came up North Jersey, I saw a lot of, differences there. I can name some names I'm not going to.
You don't have to.
But I'm like, wow, like, is there like that? And is it? Because I got to tell you, when I started at Irvington, and I know remember how it started with Bobby Jones?
So tell us how you got that gig. Because I think that's an interesting story.
So it's just a story, interesting interview. So Kaspersky, if you remember him,
Mr. Kaspersky.
I throw his name out like that. But he was the supervisor at the time. Guy. Yeah, I like Kaspersky. And one time he said we had a faculty meeting, and he said, Farley, that was the worst interview ever. So I was like, the worst interview ever. So everybody looked at Bert Carter, they all looked at me.
How did he get hired if he was the worst?
So what he meant, because it took me a minute because I took it personal.
Took it personal at first.
But what he was saying was, I thought back on the interview, and when I came to interview, the first thing he talked about was Don Malloy having Bobby Jones come there for a gospel
like expo or concert or something. Yeah.
And so he was like, Bobby Jones? I was like, I know. I watch him every Sunday morning. He was like, oh, cool. Do you play can you play Amazing Grace? Like, can I play Amazing Grace?
This is an interview for a job.
This is the interview.
Teaching.
Yeah, right. Music education. So I was like, I could play Amazing Grace. So we went down to 1224?
Oh, yeah. 024?
024. 023.
023,
yeah. So we went down and got on the piano, grand, and I just started playing. Bro, I didn't get past the second measure. He was like, "That's it. You're hired. You're hired." And I'm like, but that's what he meant by the worst interview on his part.
Yeah. Because because his expectation was, I just need this right now.
That's right.
I don't know if you like kids or not. Right. I don't know if you can teach. I don't even know if you know this major scale.
Right. You can play Amazing Grace. That means you could do something with this gospel. And so I was fine with that. I didn't even know how a real interview.
No, that's favor though. That's favor. I mean, my first job teaching. The director, it's just like Kaspersky, was Dr. May.
Okay,
William May.
I remember that name. Yeah.
And Dr. William May just said, "Hey," and I was actually I'll tell the story because this is how I reflect on favor, because that was favor.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. You were prepared for the opportunity,
right?
And it literally handed itself
right
to
into
you.
my hands. Yes.
And that happened to me. My first teaching job, I remember Dr. May. Before he called, I was like looking at all of these different school districts, in other neighborhoods. I wasn't looking in Newark. I wasn't looking in Irvington. I was just looking like, Short Hills or, all these other places. Yeah. And, and just like, okay, I'm gonna have to get my resume together, all of these things. And Dr. May gave me a call because he had been coming to Westminster prior to my graduation, like for years. He was working with them and just trying to get students there from Newark and stuff like that. And he called me. He was like, "Hey, you want a job?" Just like that. Now he was familiar with me. He'd seen me sing before, seen me play before, but he's just like, "You want a job?" I said, yeah. He was like, yeah, because they're looking for a music teacher. And I'll never forget, he was like, looking for a music teacher. And the salary just went up to $40,000 a year. I was like, okay, I ain't making no $1,000 a year. So that sounds great. And he was just like, yo. And he said, all you got to do is go call, what's the principal's name? Fennard Williams. He said, you call Fennard Williams. Yeah. He's waiting for you. I was like, really? Wow. So he's like, all right. And I called him, and he was like a stern police guy. Yeah. And literally, it just really wasn't about where you getting hired. It was just like, let me just check out who you are. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, and it literally was that. It wasn't no fight. I don't even think I gave a resume. It was just like the resume was the recommendation from Dr. May. So
that was it. Right.
So that's. Again, those similarities, man, just seeing God work that way. Yeah. And throughout my life, I've looked for that. Like I've said, okay, when I believe God is in it, it's going to work out these ways. Now, it doesn't work out there every single way, but almost every situation that I can look at and say, okay, I spent significant time in this situation. That's kind of how it started.
I absolutely agree. And I will say that every journey that I've been on has been in favor, God's favor, because I'll go back to, I didn't mention that I also was, and people like, nah, I don't believe that, but it's true. I was in the Navy for 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to have you go talk about that. So you did music in the Navy?
In the Navy.
So talk about that.
Yeah, so I went in, I tell the story all the time, but, I guess if my father was alive, he wouldn't like to hear this. But he tricked us in going to the Navy, me and my brother, yeah. I don't regret it. Because it was a journey, and it was, something that I treasure. The fact that I was able to serve my country. But I went in as a hospital corpsman.
Okay.
I was stationed in the desert. I asked for anywhere in California. They put me in the desert. That's not what I expected.
It's not what I asked. Oh, into the beach.
Like LA or
no water.
Those other places in the middle of the desert, Mojave Desert.
Wow.
But, and so, out there, you need a lot of, motivation because it's in the desert. So we'd always have these gatherings, and they would have a piano, and I play or sing. And so the other sailors, would be like, "Yo, you need to be in the band." I'm like, "Yeah," but that would never be possible because once you're in the Navy band, any band, and like I guess 13 at the time. You ain't coming out.
Really?
You ain't coming out of the band. Wow. So a week after that, guess what happened?
What?
a spot opened up in the Navy band for a piano player.
So you saying that if you got in a band, that was your spot.
That was your spot for
and
years.
People never left.
You retire out of
got
that,
you.
So
it wasn't even like a possibility because you didn't think anybody was going to give up their spot.
That's right.
Wow.
And so a week after that, somebody ran. They were favor. They were running. Farley, look at this, a spot. I was like,
this is your spot.
We were like, But the thing is, I still had to audition, and so
you didn't play Amazing Grace, did you?
No, no, not this time. Actually, the band, any Navy band, they specialize in jazz, like
nice,
or reading. If you're a good reader, because I wasn't really a jazzist like that.
Okay,
but I did pick up a lot of things. Because when I auditioned, got accepted, went to Navy school, music school in Little Creek, Virginia.
Okay, they have their own school.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
With the Army and the Marines.
Oh, that's cool.
Of course, we didn't get along with the Marines, but that's another story. But and then I was stationed in Navy Band Seattle. So they had a show band, they had a concert band, they had a rock band, a jazz band, and I was the piano player for all of those bands.
Nice.
But the jazz band was the more challenging.
Okay.
Because, those guys, the Navy musicians, they're outstanding musicians, a lot of them. So, for me, I wasn't a jazzist. I had learned some jazz when before I graduated high school. There was a dude named Gladstone Trott. He was amazing. Okay. Teacher, amazing jazzist. And so I had some skills. I could kind of
you can navigate a little bit.
But I learned a lot, while I was in those bands, and particularly the jazz band.
Nice.
So I forgot how I got here, but I was using that as an example. Well, favor, favors, but
favor.
that was favor.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely.
So everywhere I've been, or every journey, even after I was the decade I was at Irvington, and wanted to leave Irvington at the time. I was living in West Orange, and I was working on my master's. And I met a teacher there, a West Orange teacher.
Wow.
And we I don't know if you remember, well, of course you do, Patricia Corbin.
Of course, Miss Corbin.
She was my mentor at
Dr. Corbin.
Dr. Corbin. Yeah. I miss her so much.
Yeah,
man.
She was great.
She started this Essex County Choral Festival.
Yes. When I was there.
Yes.
Yeah, we did it with Arts High at Essex County College first year.
On her part, that was
and she just
genius.
Created that. Yeah.
And so a lot of the schools who were not involved in region choirs and the all-state choirs, she got them to come out and perform. West Orange came and they sang this Mozart Lacrimosa.
Okay.
And I said to myself, wow, that's what I want to get to. I love Irvington, but that's what I want to get to there. And so that's when I decided, I wanted to how do you say? I wanted more challenges.
Yeah.
Irvington was a challenge. I
had a certain challenge.
Yeah,
which was probably more social, than anything. But but even how you got there through the audition, you ended up, and we could talk about that. But you were saying you wanted now to challenge your musicianship.
Yeah, exactly. and I wasn't able to get that far. At Irvington, so. I was working on my master's, and I met a teacher who was a West Orange music teacher. Okay. And I said, yo, if you ever hear about any openings at West Orange, let me know. Next week we meet.
No. So you got
so
your
story.
favor is like 1 week out every time.
That's right.
God got a 7
I guess that's how he sets it up
for you.
That's right.
When you set your mind, you know what? All right. So next week I'm gonna be doing this.
Right. But that's how it happened. It's crazy, but that's the favor of God.
Absolutely.
And I knew it was time to switch roles because I think the job that I had done at Irvington and the journey God had me on at that time was done.
Yeah. You told me there was an incident that you said, no, I think it's time now.
Had to do with the piano? About the piano? I was thinking about that the other day because I saw Miss Anderson. Online. And I was talking to her, but it was crazy how it happened because I came in late that particular day. And I was dressed, it was the end of the year. And so I was just, kind of
casual. Yeah.
I used to wear the suit and tie. I was always in a suit and tie.
For sure.
So I had bought me some Timberlands, real Timberlands.
It's real.
And I was walking. I was so cool. I was like, they gonna like me about these Timberlands. And so as I'm walking to the class, Moselle Anderson meets me in the hallway, and she's like, "I'm so sorry." I was like, "Sorry for what?" She said, "You don't know?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Is that why you dressed like that? You got about to fight somebody?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, Miss Anderson?" They burnt your piano. And I'm like, "Oh man!" So
they knew you were leaving. They were mad that you were leaving. They had an
I don't even know if I had said I was.
No, you didn't know. They didn't know. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying, like,
right.
Spiritually, the demons were like, he's out of here.
Right.
Let's just make him ready to go.
Yeah. That was the extra push that I needed.
Right.
Yeah, so I went down, and sure enough, the piano, the keys were all soot.
Wow.
Smoke still coming out of the.
Wow.
I'm just joking. But so I was like, I wasn't even bothered by it because I'm like, I'm ready to leave anyway. And I guess this is a sign or something.
It's crazy because it's hard to always understand when that time comes because you think about all of the time invested.
That's right.
All of the things, all the memories, because you usually have great memories. But there's a time. I mean, Ecclesiastes, time and place for everything, right, season for everything. So when those seasons come, I know for me, sometimes it's bittersweet. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
So for you, was that you said by then you knew it was kind of over, so it was. I'm sure it was still bittersweet because you still got attachments there.
Yeah, and just attachments, and that was what's made it hard. What made it hard each time because I would be working with students like I want to stay until they graduate.
I want to work with class.
Them. I want to wait till this class, and then I'm out. You know?
And
it was with West Orange too. Like I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna retire yet. I want to see them out. But. And when it's time, it's time, and you just have to kind of, detach yourself.
You got to allow it to be over. Yeah. So then you had a whole career at West Orange as an educator there. Yeah. Now, before we talk about that, you made history at Irvington High School. I mean, which impacted all of us. One of the things that for me as a student stood out was, like I said, you were welcoming. I was on the stage in the first concert.
I remember.
You were like, who's that guy up there?
Yes.
I didn't happen to have the right colors that day. And again, I was singing in my mom's choir at church or playing drums there. And so some of those songs were overlapping. Some I didn't know, but I was like, it's gospel. I learned it after the first couple stanzas or whatever. But where you made history is that you created a choir, I'm sure, with the Bobby Jones concert, but then that choir basically toured, regionally, locally, for your whole time there. And I'm sure that there were people impacted, not just people who got to hear the choir, but I remember we did the McDonald's Gospel Fest. We lost a couple times, and then we actually won. What was that part of the journey, and how fulfilling was that, seeing students come and go and actually having those victories and those performances along the way?
Yeah, that was, and I always separate the two schools, but at Irvington, that was the highlight, or I think my biggest accomplishment in Irvington was being able to get this choir started. But then I didn't see that coming. I didn't see, the fact that they were going to, love and also when the kids, I guess they rallied around the principal, like, we want this to be
a class, because it wasn't a class,
and they made it a class.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And usually when that happens, you have to write a proposal, you have to to put it into the curriculum. They were like, got it,
we're gonna do it.
And it became a class. You remember, and a lot of folk were able to join because it was that last period of the day where juniors and seniors could go home if they wanted to, but they stayed. But that was the biggest accomplishment for me at Irvington, being able to watch this choir grow and impact the community. And I don't know where, I guess I was younger to be doing. As a matter of fact, I'm putting together a book of memories. I think we must have done a couple hundred gigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that decade that I was there. It's
which
amazing.
Is crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, because teachers don't do that. Right. I mean, teachers will perform in general. I know, from when you went to West Orange, that was a different experience, but probably more normalized. Like, okay, this, all city, all, whatever choir, all state, and the Disney performances, all that, or the Hershey Parks, or, Six Flags. Yeah. So those are more common, not churches up the street and McDonald's Gospel Fest competitions. People weren't doing that.
No.
So that's why I say it's kind of historic. As a matter of fact, I don't know. Somebody would have to tell me that there was another choir in Essex County who did that, or even in the state. I don't even know if there was anybody else doing it.
I don't recall. I'm
sure there was gospel choir.
Yes.
But a lot of them were student organized.
Right.
They weren't necessarily a class.
Right.
I'm sure they were in a class because Art Tie didn't have it. And because I know they had organized themselves to do that. And then who else did it? If Art Tie wasn't doing it in Newark, who was doing it?
What's funny, looking through my list of gigs, there was a weekday choir, I guess because we sang there one time.
Right. Okay.
So we did run across some, even Columbia, I think.
Okay, yeah. I think I remember Columbia. They were part of the Essex thing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when we did the thing with Dr. Corbin. But again, that's so many years ago. But again, you were a touring gospel choir, high school. That was a class.
Right.
You know what I mean? I remember also this idea of you being welcoming. When I came into the class, and I had to learn this because coming from college, I was looking for things to be more structured. But music is one of those places where people want and need to have free expression.
That's right.
And I would see Debbie laying in the back, singing, but laying on the radiator.
Please.
or Harry standing on the chair singing and shouting and all, but the excitement was crazy.
There was some personality, I'll tell you.
But that's music. Like when I go into some band rooms, it's like that. It's like it looks like a zoo sometimes. But it's just that free creative expression, and you want to cultivate it. You do want to formalize it, but it's there. It's and that's something I noticed.
Yeah, and I guess that's the kind of atmosphere they needed at that time, because they probably were hungering for something. But they, I don't know. I know because back to Kaspersky. I know he was teaching. Was he band or choir? I think he was teaching choir.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, he was choir teacher. He was pretty good, I heard. But in those in that setting, I don't know what kind of structure you need to have, and I didn't know either. Okay. I was playing it by ear too.
Right.
I didn't know. So when Debbie's up in her, chilling, I'm like, I'm gonna let her do that. Yeah. As long as she's singing, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as they singing, I'm good. I guess eventually we'll learn how to
stand.
Right.
Because you won't be performing like that.
Right. So I'm gonna be patient and just wait. Right. And I think for a lot of I also consider that a lot of students, even though we're doing well, there's a lot of issues that were going on. And so I learned how to approach each student differently, like I use, I won't say the name, but some personalities.
Yeah,
there,
yeah, absolutely.
And so as I learned that person, and because they were talented, so I wanted to
work with them, and develop them
and nurture. Right. So like, how am I going to approach this student? Because I want them, to succeed. And sing and learn how to sing well. So there wasn't. I mean, as it went on, then the structure did happen, But I got to say that during the time that I started, and around the time that you were there, you guys kind of were the model for those folks who came along after you. But after a lot of you had graduated, like I think 97 was the year where
it started to.
Yeah. So, and it was
we're going to count down now.
Yeah, this is not looking good. And the kids changed, They were different then. And then even now, when I was trying, they were very different, much different than, when
you started. Yeah. But you had some amazing talent that came through there as well.
Oh man,
I never got to work with Dwayne Clark, but he was one of the first in your choir, and of course he gone on to work in Broadway. Yeah. And, I think he has a school, so shout out to Dwayne. But
he plays a mean Ray Charles. Have you seen?
Oh no, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh man, I checked it out.
But again, I heard from you there was, and not just you. As a matter of fact, he was associated with a family that I grew up with the Rawls family in Newark.
Yeah.
And so I heard from them. My brother was a student there. He heard about him. It's like, this guy is dope. Yeah. So again, some amazing talent. I mean, you had members of the group Six Deep. Part of the choir who had record deals and stuff like that. So there's a lot of talent. One thing I actually loved about Irvington was because it was the only high school in Irvington, in that town, all of the talent was in one place.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to share it with another high school.
Yeah.
All of those high school students were going to be there. So, and it was full of talent. I mean,
you included, you just came along and I was like, whoa, I don't have to play piano no more. This is great. Come on, man. Yeah. So, and I was like, I didn't mind because what I was, getting into earlier, I had never been in front of a choir before to direct. Before that 1991 Bobby Jones.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay.
So that brought me out of my shell a little bit, because I was always behind the keyboard. So when you were coming along and playing, I was like, is he really going to do this? But you, I just remember one day you just pushed me off the keyboard, like, all right, it's all yours, bro. All yours. And you're amazing, man.
Oh,
and even more amazing today. Every time I hear, I'm like, wow, that's crazy how good you are.
Listen, I started. You gave me a first opportunity. Formally in high school, so I like I said, I can't. And I was watching you. I was, like, okay, I'm doing that. Let me pick that up.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and again, I always going to give you your flowers, always, because I know that's where I started. You know what I'm saying? And everybody knew that though. Like my mom was like, "You with Farley again?" Like everybody like knew that was like it, because you made yourself available, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
the music thing. The other thing is some people don't allow for that. You know what I'm saying? Like the opportunity for
That's
that.
right.
Like they would be like, no, I'm gonna play. You know?
Yeah, right. I was gonna say that, right.
You definitely allow for that opportunity. And again, some things you need to like be hands-on with, and some things you just need to open the opportunity.
Yeah.
And again, you did that. Tell me what. So now I followed in your footsteps by going to the same college that you went to.
Yeah.
And talk about Dr. Corbin. I want to just give her flowers. I know she's not here anymore, but she kind of forced me to be ready for auditions, because I was CE. I wasn't thinking about no auditions, but she was just like, get in here after school and we're going to just practice. And I was just like, all right, well, if the least I got to do is just learn this song, I will come and learn the song. And, it was life changing. She was just thinking of the next things and just opening up those doors. And listen, every audition we went to, because we was in there controversial, singing Margaret Bond's "I Too Sing America," the Langston Hughes.
Yeah, right.
And she was saying like, yeah, you about to be the black man coming in here singing to these white folks, and we're gonna sing it in their face, and you're gonna sound good, and you're gonna confront them directly.
Right,
and listen, they all were like, amazing, you know, like, so it was great to. And again, I didn't know what the pride was of that as much as she did,
right?
But I know she was like. Yes, and she was. One time I even saw her tear. Like, those people were. People were like, "Oh my gosh, we need to go repent." Or something.
Well, we didn't have a lot of that. We didn't have, like I said, like there was a lot of the urban schools that did not participate in the region. I mean, you experienced that because
when you got to All-State and
you saw that there wasn't a lot of us, and so we did, especially Corbin, because. She understood. I understood. I wanted that to happen too. And so we wanted to get us in there.
Yeah.
You know, and so she pushed for that when she did the Essex Choral Festival, and we were able to see each other on stage.
That was great.
And doing that sort of thing helped the groups, the choirs. We got, we can sound like that.
Well, exactly. Like, that's a good song to do. Or, again, I met some dope musicians through just in that one time, one interaction, and got to see counterparts. Like, okay, I thought I was riffing, but you over there riffing too, and we both listening to Boyz II Men or whatever, go to see. So it was interesting and that's needed. You need that camaraderie, that that healthy it wasn't really competition, but it's kind of healthy competition because it allows you to see what's out there and think, okay, I need to fix this, or this I can be confident about and stuff like that. So I mean, again, thank you guys for all of that. The McDonald's Gospel Fest. I mean, listen, I wouldn't have did it, but because I know you were volunteering time. I know that you were volunteering your time after school, sometimes on the weekends to do these performances, and you had a lot of support because you were getting buses, you were getting all the things you needed, the transportation and stuff like that. Right. We went all the way to Pennsylvania, to Shippensburg, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So we there was a lot of rallying around it that, again, it could be taken for granted, not from you or I, but just like in education, that those things happen. I mean, football teams, basketball teams, sports teams, they're going to get that, right? But a gospel choir?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And the frequency that you were getting calls. I mean, like how often were you getting calls and letters and stuff?
With all of the performances we did, there was just as many I was turning down.
Oh, wow.
Wow. They were trying to teach me how to say no. I was like, it's hard. Like, you told me to say no, but it's the Board of Ed who's asking a Board of Ed member or this, And I had some
assemblymen or
it was Craig Stanley.
Craig Stanley. Yeah.
I think we did about 50 gigs with him. But it was cool because when you allow yourself to volunteer for these performances, you get a network of people who are supporting you, and that was with the parents in the community, some of the teachers too, but politicians, and that was your support. I remember one time we had set up to go to a school or somewhere, and they didn't have a bus for us, and so I went to the Board of Ed, and the superintendent was there.
Wow!
And I was like, "Yo, we need a bus." He's like, "We didn't. You didn't schedule." I forgot what had happened. Something had happened where there was no bus, and so I was like, "Can we get one?" He's like, "Yeah, because if I don't get one, you're gonna tell the parents on me." Oh, we got that kind of club?
We got it like that?
Okay.
Well, but remember, think about it. If your group had, let's say, 50 students, that's potentially 50 to 100 people who probably vote this person in or out.
Right.
To be honest with you,
that's
so
right. Yeah. They were a very supportive community. I mean, I still recall a lot of the parents, some of them who served on the board of ed, and who were very supportive of the group and would not allow anybody to mess with them.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a great feeling for me. You know, because I appreciated the support. The only thing with being at Irvington was budget-wise, they couldn't support my program.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that we could have, you know, technology and stuff, you know. They did buy a keyboard one time. Woo. You know, they got a keyboard.
We got
one keyboard.
Oh, I love that keyboard, though. That's how I learned how to produce music.
Yeah, right.
So again, thank you, Board of Ed, for that keyboard.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And the robes, they got us robes too. Like they were hooking us up.
Yep.
You know?
And I mean, they did have things that, you know, you would see in other high schools. Like they had a piano lab.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't crazy sophisticated, but it was a nice piano lab.
Yeah.
And you know, so definitely, and I always think about when I first came to Irvington, I want to say we had like 4 music teachers.
Yeah, we did.
Which is a big program compared to, I mean, when I got to Newark Public Schools, they were like 1 band, 1 vocal. That's it. It doesn't matter how big the school is, whatever, you're going to get 1 and 1. And that was the model. And then at some point they were cutting the budget and saying, we're going to have one or the other. You know what I mean? Which I think is crazy. In an urban community, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
You know, so...
the young lady who's at Weekway now, they cut the
cut the budget again.
Well, I mean, prior to her coming there was no choir or anything. Right. You know.
Yeah, I was there when they cut it. Right. That's why I love.
So I'm like, how do you cut a music program from, you know?
But what I learned. I mean, you can tell me. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. But what I learned is that the charters really had an impact on the population. You know what I mean? Because you had schools go from like, let's say 700-800 students down to 300, 300-400, like half.
Really?
You know, because by the time right before I left Newark Public Schools, the school's population, I was at Shabazz. The school population was very small. And I was like, this is a huge school. I mean, the school is huge, but the population was small. And part of the impact was from charters, because charters, they need people. But it's not like it's new people. It's the same population. They basically take it from the same population of students. So let's say if there was, I mean, we had like at one point like 80,000 students, something crazy like that. Right. But if it was 80,000 students and now you introduce North Star, KIP, and then Robert Treat and all of these charters, they're all taken from those same population of students. And so as they grow and expand and go from 1 school to 2 schools to 5 schools to 8 schools, all of that, it's almost like you're building another school district within.
That's right.
That is taking those same students. So I do understand that was what happened. And so, but every student represents a budget.
That's right.
Item. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a cost that the state pays for each student. So, I mean, we all off subject, but I'm sure this is the impact of those programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's go back a little bit. What was the music program you came from, like that you were part of in high school? You talked about Brahms and the things that influenced you. How did you see a difference when you came there? Because you actually was at 2 good programs, if I would say, because Irvington started out pretty robust musically in their program, even though they didn't have support, I'm sure, by the end of your time there. Like when I came there, which was part of the time you were there was like at least 4 or 5 teams. There was an accompanist. There was like a lot of personnel there. How did that mirror what you had in high school? And then what were you trying to bring there specifically when you came there?
Well, with you haven't well, in high school, first of all, there was only 1 choir teacher. You know?
In your high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's all about the numbers, really. Yeah. And so I imagine that they weren't concerned about, how they could support your program. As long as you had the numbers, that was all the main thing.
Right,
that was all that mattered to them. But as far as a comparison, way different from high school. It was I went to Neptune, and it was singing was very sophisticated. For folks, and we sang a high level of choral literature. So going to I guess a decade later now, I'm out of high school teaching at in Irvington. What am I teaching? I had to start with Stevie Wonder, or something that they were familiar with, just to get them singing. That wasn't common, and where I was in choir in high school. We started on Brahms, and that's where we're gonna be. But
that culture was already built. Before you got there.
Yeah,
so
it was.
I mean, somebody had to start it probably, but you also look at where music was culturally, and that always is going to influence.
Always.
So
yeah. And so that's how I got them singing. I don't know what I do remember. I wanted a men's group, and because after hearing you guys in the region choir, I think you were in.
We were doing Shenandoah,
yeah. Like, oh man, I like that. That
was nice.
That was cool. And I've been doing that song ever since. But I remember, I'm getting off subject again. But I remember asking during the lunch period. I put it in the announcements. I think for guys to come down and we learn some music. And a bunch of guys, big dude, McDonald, remember? These guys came down.
My guy.
I said, yo, what? You said you wanted some singers, right? Like, yeah. So that was cool. But I had to start with, stuff they were familiar with. I couldn't just start with, Carro Mio Ben or, but that's how I got them to, open up and sing and just kind of give up their talent.
When I was teaching Miss Price, Valerie Price from she went to Westminster also. She had the best bass section in Newark Public Schools, because we had like a choir that was put together with all of the schools, so I was a part of that, and her basses were stand out. They could sing the low notes, and she always has some good basses, always. So shout out to Miss Price. But so let's talk now a little bit about our alma mater, Westminster. So how did you find Westminster? What made you end up there?
I was talking about Westminster the other day because, again, speaking of the journey that, you go on, I auditioned for Westminster right before I graduated high school, got in. But again, this is going back to when my father tricked us into going to the Navy. So I didn't really, I'm sorry, Mom. But I went to the Navy. But when I got out, I auditioned again later on, and I made it in again, but I wasn't, I wasn't really feeling like going back, to school. And I think, a couple of people I talked to, like, please go back. Right. And I realized the time that I went to Westminster, because even when I auditioned there the first time, I felt like this is where I need to be.
It resonated from what you were doing in high school, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And I was like, I never even knew a school like this existed.
Because it's literally singing school.
Yeah. Did you based on church music?
Yeah.
All right. So they didn't have a Jubilee or choir.
No, none of that.
But I auditioned the second time, made it back, and I was convinced to go back. And when I went back, I realized, yep, this is definitely the place for me.
Yeah.
And I have fond memories of Westminster. I met a lot of good friends there. Had a lot of good teachers, learned a lot. When you just base everything on your ear and you don't really read a lot of the time, you realize I got to put these two together because that's going to make me the consummate. That's
going to make you what you need to be.
Musician.
Absolutely.
I learned so much.
Yeah.
So
I was talking to another person on a podcast, and we were talking about how when you get out of school, you have to unpack all of the things you learned there. Like you're still like unpacking like you get so much information in that short period of time, and then almost the rest of your life you're unpacking.
Yeah, that's a true statement.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And of course, I didn't learn everything I needed. I'm still learning. But Westminster opened, my mindset. Like music is like
it's
ongoing.
Constant. Yeah.
You can keep learning and learning and learning. And so I appreciated that journey, because it made me a more mindful musician.
Yeah. No, for sure. What so you've worked over 3 decades with young people in music.
Yeah.
How important to you, knowing what you know now, because you have a wealth of history now with it, how important is formal education versus on-the-job training? Because some musicians, and you got a part of that just going, I guess, when you went to the Navy, although you had some formal school there, it wasn't 4 years of school. It was
6 months.
Yeah. It was like basic training almost, right?
Yeah.
So you had some training, but like you also got to do it on the job after that. So tell me what's the difference or I guess contrast of being able to just be right into it. Because I know some colleagues who they didn't go to college, but they got into music and they just made it a profession, versus also people who went to college, they got formal training. What was the contrast to that? Because you kind of lived in both of those places.
Yeah, there's some really good musicians out there. Like, you would even think they had formal training, you know, but because they're so darn good,
they're just good,
and it's just innately talented, you know. So, but I still believe that there's as talented as we are, as much the ability we have inside of us to create music. Education is just there's. Like I'm saying about Westminster, I learned a lot that I would have never even considered.
Yeah.
And I know how to talk that talk.
Absolutely.
If I have to. I reinforce my ear. So I know that you can learn. Hands on. That's great. But I think as far as the contrast, formal training is the way to go if you want to be, again, the consummate musician.
Yeah.
Because if you're, want to stay in that field, you're working with other people out there. I want to be able to be that musician who goes in a room and can read on site.
Yeah.
Can transpose on site.
Yeah.
And whatever, whatever I've been taught, musically, educationally, I want to be able to do that and be able to be that person.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he's the consummate one.
He can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always been the goal. For myself, like, just being able to communicate the language properly. Yeah. Like if I want to go talk to orchestra people, I could talk to you. If I want to talk to a jazz band or a funk band, we could talk, and nobody reads. We could talk. I could talk you through it, and I could lead you. Mm-hmm. One thing I'm gonna just throw out here. I remember I used to notice your charts in high school.
I can bring that up.
You were transcribing then, because you were putting the songs in the keys that made sense for the choir. Which, again, but it was you had it written out. It wasn't like you were just like relying on your ear, which you could have done, but you had the skill set to say, okay, let me do this. And and to this day, I do it. But just because it's a formalized thing, and you only got to do it one time.
Right.
Once you do it, it's like, okay, I have it right here.
Right.
So
exactly. As a matter of fact, that's how I don't remember because you were the only keyboardist I knew there at Irvington at the time, but at West Orange, there's a lot of younger guys who were, trying to play. And so I would say to them, look, if you really want to play, what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to show you chord progressions. I'm going to write this out for you, 1, 4, 5, 6, whatever it was. Yeah. Go home and practice this. And if you can practice this and get it down, then we can, you know, we can work with that.
Right.
And I'll show you how to play those progressions in every key. Yeah. That's how, you know.
Yeah. That's the way. I mean, it's 12 keys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can get those down, that's the part of the language that is universal. You know what I mean? What was one of your hardest experiences during that journey? It could be through the Navy, college, teaching.
That's a good question. What was the hardest?
Yeah, what was like or something, just a challenge that you had to deal with?
You know what? I'm not even going to say it was anything musical. Although I will say when I switched from Irvington to West Orange, that was a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to, you know, I couldn't be, you know, the person I was at Irvington. It's a whole.
I already know what you're saying.
But it wasn't even a difficult. That was a difficult part, because then after that, the kids were, you know, you could put anything in front of them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we reading this. It's good for us. So, but it wasn't really the musical. It was the you know, and you probably, I don't know, like charter versus public school. You can't get into your craft, and you can't, you know, focus on prepare for this concert, because there's a lot of other educational
stuff to do behind that. Yeah.
Like, you know, and I don't want to put it out there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, okay, you know, I can't get to this because you got me doing all these other things here.
Right.
That was the hardest thing for me
there at the new school. Yeah,
there in Irvington too.
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
And that was I think that was a challenge too, because at Irvington, you know, there were kids who could really sing that you wanted in the group, but they couldn't be in the group.
They couldn't get in there
because they had classes that they had to make up. You know, because they didn't. You know.
I had the cut class my first year to be in the choir, because I think I'll never forget. What was the name? I feel like the teacher's name was Miss Stopker or something, but it was a I want to say a earth science class.
Okay.
8th period.
Yeah.
And I would say, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. And so now I gotta think, when kids gonna go to the bathroom all the time, what are they really doing? But I would go to the bathroom, and I would be gone for like 15, 20 minutes, because I would be in the basement for rehearsal. And I'd be like, let me catch 1 or 2 of the songs real quick, and then I'll go back upstairs. But again, like, you couldn't keep me away. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know students in that time lived there. But you were saying that the challenge was even some kids getting to class. That's my challenge now. I mean, I have students who are incredibly talented, but the initiatives of the school, you know, our school is like the collegiate school. So it's literally focused on trying to get all the students into college and to and through college. That's their motto. However, I also realized that kids have individual paths. Everybody's path is not college.
Right.
And even if their path is college, what are they going to study? What are they interested in?
Yeah, right.
You know, what options are you giving them? Right. Are you saying it got to be academic?
Right.
Or are you allowing them to be a athlete too? You know what I mean? And I mean, we just lost our football team. So, which is crazy, which is an opportunity that's going to be lost, you know, for some students. But again, so how do we bridge that gap? Because now with that gone, let's say if a kid was, you know, musically inclined, but they're not getting music at the regular basis that we had. Because like I said, I always reflect on what we had. I think we had music every period. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it was accessible because we had 3-4 teachers at one point. How did you navigate that challenge of kids? I know you would probably pull some kids after school, stuff like that. So what were some of your ways to get around that?
Thanks for listening. To stay up to date between episodes, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you liked what you heard today, or if there's something specific you want us to dive into next, leave us a comment. Catch you in the next episode.